Welcome to an Alfie James production, The Little Match Girl, adapted from the short story by Hans Christian-Andersen by Alfie James, supported by the Arts Council England and the Redbridge Arts Fund.
The Little Mermaid, the Snow Queen, the Ugly Duckling, and the Emperor's New Clothes. Hans Christian-Andersen wrote them all.
I love The Little Mermaid. He was a genius. Are you going to tell us one of those stories?
Oh no, my little ratty friend. This story is set a little closer to home.
What, right here in London?
Indeed it is, although it could easily be set in any town or city.
Does it have mermaids and talking animals in it?
No mermaids, but if you listen carefully, you might hear a talking animal or two. This story is about a small girl. She was known as the Little Match Girl.
The Little Match Girl? That's a strange name for a girl.
She spent her days selling matchsticks on the streets.
What, every day?
All day and every day.
That's not very much fun. I bet she's miserable and sad.
She was a kind and cheerful girl. She would always try to say hello to everyone who passed her by. She'd even sometimes give them a little song or dance. You'll meet her in a few moments as she's about to walk around that very corner. That's the spot where she always began her day, right outside Mr. Bramble's pie shop.
Those pies do smell rather nice, especially in this weather. Is it always this cold?
Indeed, it was in winter. And here she comes. This is where our story begins. It was Victorian London, the very same time that Mr. Dickens wrote Oliver Twist and Great Expectations.
Oh, I know him. Well, not personally, but I know his books.
The streets were filled with snow, and the cold air chilled your fingers to the bone. The street was busy with people buying Christmas presents, chatting and going to work. There were horse and carriages and carol singers on street corners. The Little Match Girl was just one of the many poor children walking up and down the streets and standing on corners selling flowers, chestnuts, matchsticks and boot shining. Most of them are ignored, but if you open your eyes and look closely, you'll see them all amongst the hustle and bustle of the street. There she is, the Little Match Girl. The Little Match Girl, as she was known, stood on the corner, no more skin and bones. The biting cold air and falling snow filled the poor child's small heart with woe. Matchsticks for sale, only half a dozen a penny. Her cries sounded, but fell deaf upon the many. From dusk till dawn, she joined the street child's life. Selling enough to barely eat was a daily strife. Large flakes of snow covered the ringlets of her ginger hair. She shivered as her hands and feet lay bare. The cold wind blew, battering her innocent face, taking away her childhood without a trace. Hunger was a regular pinching curse, a constant reminder of her family's empty purse. The street child feared going home with guilt and dread, as they often made no pennies to buy a piece of bread. She would shelter in a doorway, trying to keep warm. Shutting her eyes tight, she would imagine a life from the poverty storm, a roast dinner, a warm fire, shoes which fit. To see her father smile again, just for one bit. There was once a time for the Little Match Girl when she had a different story altogether to tell. When times were filled with laughter and joy, now her father is jobless, downtrodden, without hope to employ. The days go by, and although her fingers grow numb, she keeps on smiling, never giving up. Hope that a better time will come, a day when all people are able to sing a happy song, and a time when all poverty and unfairness has gone. Till then, The little match girl, as she was known, will stand on the corner, no more skin and bone. The biting cold air and falling snow will fill the poor child's small heart with woe.
Matchsticks for sale, half a dozen for only a penny. Matchsticks for sale, half a dozen for only a penny.
Why, hello there, miss. And what brings a fine young lady such as yourself here today?
Well, one needs to do one's Christmas shopping, of course, and one needs to buy the biggest, juiciest fat hog roast in the whole of London. We have all the family arriving tomorrow. I've sent the servants out, of course, but you know how fussy my husband is about these things.
And he has to have only the best, your husband, doesn't he?
How are you, Tom?
I'm getting by, miss. Just keeping my head down like I do. Mr. Bramble's been in a terrible temper these last few days, and I don't want to feel the back end of his hand too many times if I could help it. Otherwise, I'd be out of me ear.
Just be like a quick-moving field mouse, dodging and turning. He won't catch you then.
Precisely, me old flower. That's what I'll do. I'll keep moving so he won't have time to stop me. Don't call me just Tom for nothing. Why don't you see what you see is what you get? How's picking's been? You look frozen.
Haven't sold a single match yet, but I'll be okay.
Your hands and cheeks are turning blue. You still got that cough of yours?
It's nothing.
Boy? Oh, where is that pesky, lazy, good-for-nothing boy? I swear I'll...
Here, that's Mr. Bramble. I'll best be off.
What are you doing out here? Have you washed the floor yet and sifted those boxes?
Just doing it now, Mr. Bramble, sir.
Don't you lie to me, boy. You're lazing about. Now get back inside before I...
Just doing it now, Mr. Bramble, sir.
Oh, come back here. I haven't finished with you yet. Ah, that pesky boy. And what are you smiling at?
Nothing.
Nothing? Well, you can clear off too and stop clogging up my doorway. You're scaring away the customers.
With that, Mr. Bramble slammed the shop door shut in the small girl's face.
What a rude gentleman indeed.
I'd like to say that Mr. Bramble's bark was worse than his bite, but as just Tom regularly witnessed, it wasn't true.
I'll teach you for being an idle boy. You're a lazy good-for-nothing.
Let me get my hands on that Mr. Bramble. I'll give him some of his own medicine and help that poor Tom escape.
But where would he escape to? Like many of the poor children, Tom had grown up in one of the poorhouses. Believe me, working for Mr. Bramble was a luxury compared. This was as good as life will probably get for Tom.
Matchsticks for sale, half a dozen for only a penny.
And so the little match girl continued to walk further up the busy street, her tiny feet almost disappearing into the snow and soaking the bottom parts of her legs.
Hello there, Ratty, sir. Would you like to buy half a dozen matches? They're only a penny.
Of course, yeah, I'll have...
But just then a huge horse and carriage came speeding around the corner, nearly missing a group of street urchins. A small mouse was sitting nibbling on a rotten piece of carrot. The little girl jumped into the road without thinking.
Watch out there, Mrs Mouse. Watch out.
Little girl, no!
Ah! Giant hose!
Look out.
She leapt into the road and grabbed the mouse just in time. But despite seeing them both, the driver continued at speed towards them.
We're going to be a goner! The horse is going to trample all over us!
The little girl jumped out of the way just in time, landing in a puddle of slushy wet snow. Her small bag of matches fell into the water. Her oversized shoes flew up into the air. Two small urchins quickly scooped them off and ran away.
Hey, come back with them shoes! Come back here! I swear I'll give you such a wallop with my handbag if you don't. I'm sorry, miss. I tried, but they're too fast for me. My back isn't what it used to be. Cowards, a lot of them. Look at me. My hat's all in a mess now. I swear that my whole life just flashed before my eyes.
The coach door flew open and a large man stepped out wearing a suit and top hat and thick coat. Two ladies followed him before a young boy suited up jumped out.
Oh, you, yes, you. You almost ran us all down.
Just then the little girl remembered her matchsticks.
No, the matches. No, they're all wet. Father's going to be so angry.
Oh, I'm so sorry, miss. I didn't see it coming. I would have been as flat as a roadkill if it hadn't been for you. I was too busy eating that carrot. You see, I was so hungry. I don't even have anywhere to go.
You should come stay with me. I can look after you.
You help me, miss? But you don't know me.
My grandma used to say that if we all help each other out a bit, then the world will be a kinder place.
And she was right too. I could tell your father what happened to the matches if you like.
Oh, he's going to be so angry.
The little match girl lived with her father in a small, cramped attic in an old, rickety house. The wind would often whistle through the building. Her father had tried so hard to stuff the larger cracks with rags and straw, but it hadn't worked very well. The only light was a single candle where her father sat for hours, carefully making the matchsticks. His hands were blistered, shaking with tiredness, and his eyes were struggling to squint to see under the small light. His ragged, unshaven and unkempt looks could easily mistake him for being an undesirable rogue. He hadn't eaten, nor had he slept for days.
Dropped them. Do you realise how long it's taken me to make them? And you've dropped them in the snow? How could you be so clumsy and stupid?
I'm sorry.
We needed that money for food. What are we going to do now? We have rent to pay, food to buy.
I was trying to.
But it was no use. The little girl knew her father well enough now. She could see the disappointment and anger in his eyes. He could hardly look at her. She'd let him down.
You'll have to sell more tomorrow to make up for it. And I'll have to work through the night to make twice as many matches.
I'm hungry.
Hungry? You should have thought about that before you dropped your matches in the snow.
But it wasn't my fault.
Go to bed.
Don't like him very much.
He was a strict and proud man, pushed to the edge. The little match girl quickly backed away from the tall, towering shadow, clenching his fist over her. She ran through to the small room to hide herself. She buried her face into the blanket and cried, and heard the familiar sound of her father's fist hammering down onto the wooden table in rage.
Please don't cry, little miss. Look, I've got a little piece of cabbage leaf that I was saving for a snowy day. It's a bit brown now, but we can share it if you like.
Thank you, Mrs. Mouse. That's very kind of you.
Oh, the things will look brighter in the morning, as my mum and mother used to say.
My grandma used to say the same.
You miss her very much, don't you?
Christmas was always my favourite time of the year. We used to live in a tiny little townhouse. Sure, it was small, but it was warm and cosy. The fire would be burning, and Father would take me out with him to buy the Christmas tree. He'd wrap his scarf around me and put my hand in his pocket to keep it warm. We'd laugh and skip along the road, jumping in the snow, and hear it crunch under our feet. Crunch, crunch, crunch. The trees would be stacked up high upon the market stall. People gathered around, choosing their favourite. There would be tall ones, fat ones, ones with bushy leaves, and some as skinny as a skeleton. Which one will it be this year? He whispered in my ear. Go on, choose wisely, as each tree holds its own special Christmas spirit. I'd look all around at each tree with wonder, trying so hard to see the magic which each of them had. That one, I'd cry, pointing out at one. My father would laugh. A perfect choice, he'd say. Dried fruit, apple slices were strung together to decorate the tree, dried leaves, sprigs of holly, and even a tiny bit of mistletoe were used. Grandma would bring in the decorations we had made that week using pine cones, yarn, tin and fabric too. My grandma was the best at making decorations. The colours would light up the tree, reds, greens, blues, silver and gold. Then for the final piece, the greatest of them all, my grandma would open a small little box wrapped in paper and soft straw. She would carefully take out the little angel my mother had made. My father would look at my grandma and smile with a tear in his eye. Then he'd scoop me up, first in his arms, then onto his shoulders. I'd reach out my arm, trying to reach the top of the tree. Higher and higher, I would reach out further and further. My father would tiptoe, trying his best. My grandma would give out a laugh and giggle as my father wobbled from side to side. Hold on, she'd cry out. Then she'd pass me the angel, and with a steady hand, I would do my best to place the angel at the top of the tree with a smile. He'd slowly lower me to the ground and put his arms around Grandma and I and say, now she's with us, Christmas can begin.
I shall help you sell your matchsticks tomorrow. We will sell enough to even buy a meat pie from Mr. Bramble's pie shop.
Or even a turkey.
A goose.
Or a big fat hog roast.
Now you snuggle up under that little blanket and close them little eyes of yours. Mrs. Mouse is here now. Sleep, my child, and peace attend thee all through the night. Guardian angels, God will send thee all through the night.
Good night, my sweetheart.
Who's that at the door?
There was a shadow of a man standing by the door looking in. Mrs. Mouse almost jumped out of her skin. Quickly picking up her handbag, she cried,
Lay one finger on her, and I swear I'll give you such a wallop with my handbag. You won't know what hit you.
The shadow stepped forward into the little light coming in through the open window.
It's a monster. It's
Her father. As he looked in, down at the sleeping little girl, he spoke softly.
I'm sorry. Good night, my sweet.
It was Christmas Eve. The day started as it always did, with her father waking the little match girl up. The streets were much busier today, as Christmas Day was drawing closer. The little match girl still loved Christmas time. Seeing the snow, the Christmas trees, carol singers, made her still full of hope.
I swear you're following me about, miss.
Oh, is that so? There was me thinking that this was my spot. I can't help it if you keep coming out to say hello, can I?
Maybe I like to.
What happened to your eye, Tom?
Oh, what this, Blacken? Ah, it was nothing really. Saw this dear old lady be set upon by three big lads wearing masks and carrying sticks, I did. I knew that they were only after the few pennies she had in her purse, but I couldn't let her go down without a fight, could I? So I stepped in, didn't I? They just got a lucky punching, didn't they, like? But you should see them, though. I saw them off, I did.
Just Tom, our hero.
Who's that you got with you?
This is Mrs Mouse. She's going to help me sell my matches today. She's my friend.
Yeah, I thought I was your friend.
Oh, but you are, Tom. You're my best friend.
Nah, I'm just jesting with you. I knows you've got lots of friends, really. Yeah, I best be getting back in before Mr. Bramble kicks off again. Are you stopping by the bridge later?
The bridge was a common place where some of the street children came together to keep warm by an old burning fire under the bridge and shared their stories of the day. Although Tom wasn't a street child, he was a favourite among the others because he would steal the scraps of the pies and pies which weren't sold and fetch them down to the hungry children.
I'll be there.
And with that, Tom gave one of his magical smiles and was off again.
He's a good one, that one. You do the right thing to keep him close to you. He will make a good sweetheart someday.
Oh, Tom? Oh, no, he's just Tom, my best friend.
The snow clouds were getting thick above their heads, and there was a cold wind picking up. So they set off to start selling the matches.
Matches for sale, half a dozen for a penny.
Come and get your blooming matches. Matches! Lovely, lovely matches! Come and get them!
It was quite nice having someone selling the matches with. She liked the company.
Oh, you, yep, you with that fancy hat and 5 chins. Stick your hand in your pocket and buy some matches.
All right, so she wasn't that great at selling, but she tried her best.
No. Well, there is no need to be rude. What about you, madam? Oh, don't give me that look of death. So, what am I? A talking mouse?
As the day went on, they managed to sell a few pennies worth. That was when something happened.
Oh, what? Did she make her fortune?
Look out!
A large horse and carriage pulled up, almost flattening them both. The poor little match girl was knocked to the floor in the snow.
Road hogs, watch it! You knocked the little miss over.
A tall gentleman emerged from the coach, followed by 2 ladies and a small boy. He glanced down at the ranting mouse.
Don't you know who I am?
No, but I know what you are. You, sir, are a prize.
It's okay, sir. It was my fault.
The gentleman gave a scoff like tut.
Ah, come along, ladies. Do not fear. It's just a couple of those peasants which I've warned you of. Keep Gerald close, will you, ladies, and don't look at them, and they will leave you alone. Huh?
The tall gentleman then clicked his fingers, and another gentleman appeared and pushed the little match girl and Mrs. Mouse off the footpath and away from the coach.
What a nasty man. He needs a good smack on the nose. Give me him.
That was Sir Barnaby Jones, one of the posh folks. He was also the local election candidate for the council. He was a man of power.
Still a prize?
Come on, Mrs. Mouse. We can go over to the market square instead.
The market square was a busy and noisy place. You had to be mindful of pickpockets, but it made good sales. The day went on still, and the little girl looked inside her little ragged bag. It was the one her grandma had made. It had been patched up more times than she could remember. She'd sold almost half of the matches, but it still wasn't enough. She so wanted to make her father proud and happy again. Her hands were freezing, and her chest was beginning to tighten. But she wrapped her thin and dirty red scarf around her shoulders again.
Sure was a fighter. I'm not sure I'd want to go home without selling all the matches either.
Just then, the little match girl spotted something unusual in one of the doorways. A small little figure.
Oh, it's just an urchin, miss.
Wait, I don't think it is. Look, it's the little boy from the coach. He's crying and alone.
Oh, leave the blighter. He will get found.
But her grandma's words rang out in her head. Always look after others in need. She walked across to where the small boy was sitting. He looked terrified and cold.
You shouldn't be out here all by yourself.
I ran away and now I'm lost.
Well, that's a daft thing to have done. It's busy out here. These streets are not the place for someone like you to be. You're freezing. Let me take you back to the shop where your coach was.
It's too late. They've already gone.
Well, you can't stay here. You'd best come with me.
She held out her hand to the small boy. He looked up at her and hesitated before taking it. She helped him to his feet.
We best get you warmed up.
So, who wants some meat pie trimmings, me darlings?
Tom was quickly surrounded by at least a dozen children of all ages, each sharing the trimmings and leftovers which Tom had brought them.
What is this place?
It's the Street Child's Pack, and this is our den.
A den?
A secret hideaway. It's our safe place where we can come and keep dry, and where we're safe.
Safe from what?
Any harm, like. From the older ones that might try to steal from us, or hurt us. And from the old Bill, of course.
I say, do you live here?
You look surprised.
I don't, but some of the others do.
But where's the living room? The walls, the windows, then the bedrooms?
Oh, bless me.
Windows? Oh, can't you see them? They're all around you. In fact, this place might not look very much to you, but it's Buckingham Palace to us. Ain't that right, Tom?
Indeed it is. And you are the lady of the house.
But you've got to squint your eyes to see it proper like. Go on, try it.
I still can't see it.
We have a huge door with a lion's head for a door knocker that roars when you knock it, and a large staircase that goes round and round.
And banisters that you can slide down.
The living room has soft chairs with those padded pillow things that you can lay your head on.
Oh, cushions.
He's catching on. Why, he's a bright little fella.
That's right. There's an open fire that always burns bright, and books which cover the halls from the floor to the ceiling.
Oh, my father has a library inside his study.
And don't forget the tree.
Our tree is the very best, the largest of them all. It's decorated, sparkling and colourful too.
With a special magical angel sitting on the top.
There's a kitchen and a dining room that's filled with all the food you'd ever want to eat, and a big dog that bounces around playfully trying to catch its tail.
Oh, we've got 3 of those.
8, no 10, 20 bedrooms upstairs. All of them have a king-size bed in them.
Of course.
Do you see it now? Only real children can see it though.
I can see it. I can see it.
What's wrong? Why are you crying?
I miss home. I should never have run away. I wanted a toy, you see, and Mother said that I had enough toys and I got angry. I'm never going to see my mother again, am I?
Oh, you poor little thing.
I bet you're hungry, ain't you?
Yes, I could eat a whole horse. My tummy is rumbling so loud.
Here, I'll save this scrap for myself. But I guess you can have it.
That's kind of you, Tom. Now, what do you say?
Isn't much, but thank you.
The small boy began to eat the scraps which Tom had given them. as if he hadn't eaten a meal in days. He looked around at the other children, standing around the fire, trying to keep warm. He noticed their ragged clothes, their unkempt hair, how thin some of them were. He couldn't help but to be fascinated by them.
Who are they all?
Just children like you.
But why don't they have homes? Where are their parents?
Most don't have parents. A lot of them are from the workhouse, just like Tom here.
Don't they go to school? Who looks after them?
School? Oh my days. You are a funny sort. None of us go to school. We all work like. We're part of Her Majesty's working class.
You work?
All of us. We're all members of the Street Child Pack. Standing tall, we've got each other's back. It's the finest life that we can be, the invisible children which most don't see. At just 5, Lenny became a chimney sweep. He's forced to climb them for his keep. One day he got stuck in a chimney so tight, his master tried smoking him out for fright. We're all members of the Street Child Pack. Standing tall, we've got each other's back. It's the finest life that we can be, the invisible children which most don't see. Pickpocketing is how Maddie used to spend her time, till her father was arrested for committing a crime. Now she searches the streets for dog feces to sell her tanneries for making leather pieces. We're all members of the Street Child Pack. Standing tall, we got each other's back. It's the finest life that we can be, the invisible children which most don't see. Mudlarking nearly gave Jip an untimely end. A man named Tasha became her friend. They searched the underground sewer for items to sell. Tragedy happened and Jip now only remains with the story to tell. We're all members of the Street Child Pack. Standing tall, we've got each other's back. It's the finest life that we can be, the invisible children which most don't see. At just a young age, Billy learned to boot shine. He nearly almost earns his penny every time. He lost his earring, no one knows how, but Billy's a fighter and still boot shines even now. We're all members of the Street Child Pack. Standing tall, we've got each other's back. It's the finest life that we can be, the invisible children which most don't see.
Are they real children in your poem?
Yep. You see that girl with the black hair sitting by the archway? That's Maddie. And the boy curled up by the fire is Billy. Jip and Lenny are the ones poking the fire to keep it burning. They're all real.
I want to go home now.
Try and get some rest. We'll find a way to get you home. Don't worry.
Tom glared at the little match girl and pulled her to one side, away from the child.
Here, how are you going to get him back? You can't just walk up to the old Bill and hand him over. They think you kidnapped him or something, and there'll be the Old Bailey for you. Maybe even the workhouse.
I'm going to take him home myself.
And how are you going to do that? He probably lives out in the city.
I've got to try. It's Christmas.
You don't always have to be so kind to everyone. He's a toff. I'm sure if you let me just wander the streets, one of the rich folks will pick him up.
Or maybe one of the rough sorts will. I can't let that happen.
All right. Then let me come with you.
You can't miss your curfew. It'll be more than just a beating you'll get from Mr. Bramble.
He don't scare me.
You're the one that's too kind, Tom. You're too kind to me.
'Cause I like you, that's why. I'll go another pie. For you and your father, like. You could take the boy home and let your father deal with it. He'll know what to do.
You can't keep stealing pies. If Mr. Bramble finds out...
He's old. I'll do it without him even noticing. If he gets how many pies he's got half the time. Here, take it. I also got you this. It's nothing really.
What is it?
Open it and see. It ain't much. I saved up plenty for it, though.
It's a ribbon.
For your hair.
But
It is Christmas Eve, after all.
I didn't get you anything.
It doesn't matter. Come on, I'll walk you back home.
When they arrived back at the old attic, it was cold and dark. They found the old chest on its side with its contents splashed out on the floor. The little match girl's mother's dresses, necklaces, hats and scarves. Her father was sitting in the corner on the floor, leaning against the wall. He was wearing one of her mother's dresses and cradling one of her scarves. A casket of drink was by his side. For one moment, the little girl closed her eyes. A large bubble blew up inside her stomach, and she could hardly speak.
Why was he wearing her mother's dress?
Grief, sadness, there are so many reasons.
Oh my, the man is completely...
What's that? Who's there? I said, who goes there?
It's me, Father.
You come home early. I was just trying to find some of your mother's. Her little chain and locket. She wanted you to have it when you were old enough. I couldn't find it. I wanted to give you something for Christmas.
I say, has he drunk too much? My father does that sometimes too.
Who's that you've got there? Have you brought guests?
It's just Tom and my two other friends. This is Mrs Mouse and this here is Gerald. He's lost.
Lost, you say? On Christmas Eve? Oh, no one should be lost on Christmas Eve. You're all welcome here. We have nothing. Well, I have my drink. It's yours if you'd like some.
I've bought a meat pie for you, sir.
A meat pie? You're a good lad, Tom. We shall eat like kings and queens.
Only a small pie.
To them, it was a feast.
I sold some matches.
All of them?
Not all of them.
Yeah, but she did her best.
And she was looking after me.
Proper St. Teresa now, aren't we? Now, let's be having that pie. Fetch the plates, the cutlery and the glasses. I'll supply the drink.
There aren't any plates or cutlery.
Her father pushed the chest back upright so that they could sit around it and use it as a table. He passed a candle to Tom, who lit it and positioned it in the centre. They broke the pie up into small pieces and shared it around.
Is this where you live?
Yeah.
I've never seen a house like this before. Where are the servants, the lamplights, furniture and...
How rude. We can't all be rich, you know.
He doesn't mean it. He's never seen a house like this.
Do many people live like this?
More than you can imagine.
Back when my dear Rodney was alive, he used to play his violin and sing a tune after we've had a feast.
How about you, Tom? Do you know a song or two?
Ah, you wouldn't want to hear me sing, miss. That'd be sure to bring on a nightmare for anyone.
I'm sure you're not that bad.
How about a story then? A true but rather sad tale.
Suddenly, her father jumped up onto the chest, almost knocking the candle onto the floor.
I'm a working class man. The working class man I am. I've been broken, mended, patched up as good as new. That much is true. And even in good weather, I'm just half sewn together, just trying to fill my father's working boots. I'm a working class man. The working class man I am. Pride was gifted to me at an early age. Do what's right, honest, a common trait. I only wanted to be the best. I thought I was ready for every test, always trying to fill my father's working boots. I'm a working class man. The working class man I am. The lads and I were young and free. We thought we had it all. My father would shake his head in dismay, but I thought my life would be better my way. So he watched me from afar, wearing his working boots. I'm a working class man. The working class man I am. I got a job in a bank and life was great. I tilt my hat this way and that. I look quite dandy in my pinstripe suits. I even bought myself a pair of shiny shoes, whilst my father carried on wearing his working boots. I'm the working class man. The working class man I am. I met a girl one night by the dock. I suppose it was love at first sight. We talked for hours of the dreams we shared. The love of my life, nothing else compared. I thought those working boots were a thing I could forget. I'm a working class man, the working class man I am. Happiest day of my life when she told me we were having a child. I was on top of the world and everyone I told. Then, one bitter cold night, I did not foresee. She was taken cruelly away from me. My father was there by my side, still wearing his working boots to guide. I'm a working class man, the working class man I am. A year later, my father did pass. I donned a fake smile from then on as a mask. I searched, but no other job could be found. I longed for my father's words, which he would sound. The boots he once wore, now sitting by the wooden door. I'm a working class man, the working class man I am. Ragged and my clothes are in tatters. Making matchsticks to sell is now my story to tell. I'm mocked and downtrodden by the rich and their powers, happy to laugh at me from their ivory towers. Now I wear my father's working boots as my own. I'm a working class man, the working class man I am. I feel tired, worn, battered and bruised. My hopes and dreams long gone past. It's a daily fight to keep my child and I alive. Hunger, the freezing cold, it's a struggle to survive. My father's boots, now torn and filled with holes. I'm a working class man. The working class man I am. I despise the man which I have become. There's nothing worse than a father that can't provide. Drinking till I'm on the floor, because when you're drunk, you're poor no more. I'm no longer worthy nor fit to wear his working boots. I'm a working class man, the working class man I am. I've been broken, mended, patched up, as good as new, that much is true. But even in good weather, I'm just half sewn together, wishing I hadn't sold my father's boots.
He took off his hat and gave a bow before quickly falling off the chest and collapsing on the floor.
There's no use asking him to take the poor boy home. He's completely out cold.
What am I going to do? I'm never going to get home now.
Hey, don't you dare even think of it.
It won't be far. It's Christmas after all. We can't let him miss Christmas with his family.
It's along the main road. I can show you.
I'm coming with you.
No, you can't be late. Mr. Bramble will...
I don't care about Mr. Bramble.
But there was no telling her. She had made up her mind. Tom walked with her to the bottom of the main road. The snow was beginning to fall hard. The roads and footpath had joined to make a white river as far as you could see. The cold wind chilled them all to the bone. It was going to be a tough journey home. Gerald gripped hold of her hand, and Mrs. Mouse disappeared into the little match girl's pocket.
Boy, it sure is freezing out here, and that road ahead looks nasty.
They looked up at the old country lane ahead. It was thick with snow.
I'm cold.
It's not as far as you think. Think of it as a little game or secret adventure. We'll have you home in no time.
Here, I really don't like this, miss.
I'll be home before you know it. I'll come see you tomorrow.
I'll wait here for you until you get back.
Don't be daft. You'll catch your death standing out here. Go back to Mr. Bramble's shop. You'll only get him angry if you're late.
At least take my shoes and cap. They'll keep you warm.
Poor Tom. He was frightfully worried. He would have gone to the centre of the universe for her.
She was a pretty special girl.
Oh, Tom, I almost forgot to give you this.
What is it?
It's an angel. My mother made it. It'll always keep you safe. It's my Christmas gift to you.
But
Before Tom could utter another word, she was gone. He watched as Gerald and her walked up the road ahead until they disappeared into the snow. He looked down at the angel. It was the most beautiful present he'd ever had, the only Christmas present that he'd ever had.
Are we nearly there yet?
Not quite yet.
The snow was falling heavier and the flakes were getting bigger.
The footprints were almost disappearing almost immediately.
The little match girl held onto Gerald's hand tightly. They continued to walk for what felt like miles and miles. Their feet were aching and their feet sore. Tom's shoes were too big for the little match girl and were flip-flapping on and off with every step. Ahead, they saw an oncoming horse. It was galloping towards them at speed.
Quickly, behind these bushes.
They watched as the horseman sped past them before they started to walk once more.
My legs can't walk any further. I need to rest.
We can't stop now. There's not far to go.
But the young boy was exhausted. He was not used to walking so far.
Climb onto my back. I'll carry you.
The boy did as he was told, and she carried him on her back through the snow. The wind bit into her red nose, and she began to cough.
I won't ever forget what you've done for me. I'll never forget the street child's pack, nor will I forget just Tom and how lucky I am. You must stay with us tonight. My father can fetch you home in the morning, or you can spend Christmas with us.
Just then they saw the large house in the distance. The lights shone brightly. As they got closer, they could see lots of silhouettes of grown-ups through the windows. There were policemen too, and a woman pacing up and down. Gerald immediately ran and knocked on the door. A man in a black suit opened the door. His eyes widened and he let out a gasp. Master Gerald! Almost at once, Sir Barnaby Jones appeared, flustered.
Wherever have you been, boy? Do you realise the trouble you've caused? I've had half the police force out searching for you.
It's all right. I got lost, but I made some friends and they brought me home. This is...
But before he could say another word, the old man grabbed hold of Gerald and started to drag him inside.
But what about my friend? Can't she stay?
Stay? This is not a guest house for the waif and strays. Well, you're already in enough trouble. She's lucky I'm not going to be demanding that she be arrested for kidnap. Now, say your goodbyes and get inside. Boy, your mother has been worried sick.
Well, I'm sorry.
It's fine. But would you do something for me? Would you take care of Mrs. Mouse? She's not a young lady anymore and she deserves to be in the warm, safe.
Just you hold on there, little miss. Who's going to keep you company on your way home?
I'll be fine, just you see.
Come on. You're letting the heat out, boy.
Gerald took Mrs. Mouse and placed her carefully inside his pocket, and the match girl turned and walked away, hearing the door slam behind her.
What a nasty, good-for-nothing man.
The little match girl continued to walk as fast as she could. Her chest was starting to hurt, and she started to cough harder. The snow was getting in her eyes and beginning to sting. Just then, she lost one of her shoes in the snow, and then the other one too. She turned to try to find them, but the bitter, nasty wind screeched through her ears and made it difficult to focus on the ground below. Her feet went numb instantly. Every step was painful as she fought for every breath. Just then, she looked up at the road ahead and then back behind her. She was lost. She turned and slipped and fell to the ground, but managed to crawl behind a bush. She wrapped the wet blanket around her shivering body and curled her legs up and hugged them with her arms.
Oh, please let someone come quick.
She took out her small bag and found the matches her father had made and smiled. She struck one on a log, but at once it went out. She struck another and it disappeared again. Tears began to well up in her eyes. Her lips were turning blue and her cough was rattling her lungs. She struck another match. It stayed alight in her small fingers, the heat almost tingling her nails. As she looked into the flame, she saw something.
A stove!
Indeed, it seemed to the little girl that she was sitting in front of a big stove with polished brass feet and handles. There was a splendid fire baking in it and warming her so beautifully. But just as she was stretching her feet out to warm them,
The match went out.
she was left, sitting with the end of the burned out match in her hand.
Quickly, light another.
She struck another match. It burned and blazed up. This time she could hardly believe what she saw. A marvellous feast was spread across a table with a white cloth and pretty china and cutlery too. There was a roast goose stuffed with apples and chestnuts steaming on it. There were cookies and desserts of all kinds. The little girl's mouth watered. Suddenly she saw Gerald, the boy she had helped. His father and mother came into the room, followed by other guests. They were laughing and drinking. It was a wonderful, warm house. She saw Gerald look out of the window. Mrs. Mouse was with him. It was like they could see her because they waved and looked sad. The little girl waved back, but the flame went out.
Why couldn't that beast of a man invite her in? There was plenty to go around.
Again, she lit another, trying to keep warm. This time, she saw a Christmas tree. It was a tree that her father, her, and I had decorated. The homemade decorations we had made together. The pine cones and candles, too. A young woman walked into the room and took out an angel, made and gave it to her. Her father scooped her in his arms, as he always did, higher and higher still, in his arms and then onto his shoulders. She reached out, stretching her arm further and further before placing the angel at the top of the tree. It sparkled in the light like a star. It reminded her of her grandma. It reminded her of me. Then the match went out. The little girl struck another match. This time she saw me. We were sitting in the living room and she was combing my hair.
Grandma, oh, do take me with you. I know you will vanish when the match goes out.
She hastily struck the rest of the matches because she did not know how long she had and did not want me to disappear. The light from all the matches made it as bright as day.
Father is so unhappy and tired, and looking after me causes him so much pain. I don't want to be a burden anymore. Take me with you.
I picked her up, and her limp body fell into my arms. She smiled at me, just as she always did, and she was warm again. Then the matches blew out.
Tom, where is she? Where's she gone?
Tom stood shivering, staring up the snow-filled road ahead. Snow covered his half-frozen body. He hadn't left the spot where he had said goodbye until he knew that she was safe.
I passed out, Tom. I passed out. Where is she?
She went up there.
Her father looked up ahead, up the road. His eyes widened in fear. He started to run as fast as he could, the snow crunching under his feet and spraying flakes all over the place. Several times he slipped and skidded, almost falling over, but he refused to stop. He refused to give up. He ran for almost a mile before he came to a small gathering of people. They were crowding around something lying on the side of the road. Rich folk, all dressed up in their Christmas Sunday best. Poor little thing, one whispered. Such an awful sight to see on Christmas Day, too, another muttered. The little match girl's frozen body lay still and peaceful, half covered by the snow. Her father fell to his knees beside her and took her in his arms and sobbed.
My beautiful, beautiful little girl.
The crowd of people stood there watching, not knowing what to do nor what to say, until one gentleman stepped forward, a large gentleman with wispy hair, sporting a rich suit and cane.
An awful tragedy.
Can I smack him one now, please?
Her father picked her up and carried her back home, leaving the crowd chirping among themselves. Neither Tom nor her father said a word as they took her to the hospital. Tom still refused to leave his best friend's side. They watched as the doctor took her away, silently.
Come on, lad. It's time for you to go home.
I wish that there was something I could have said. I wish I could have reached out to them and told them not to be sad, that she was at peace. She was with her mother in a good place. They approached Mr. Bramble's pie shop, and as her father began to walk away, Tom stood there for a moment, numb inside and a little scared. He held onto the angel in his hand tightly. Suddenly the door swung open.
You've got a nerve, you little brat. Where have you been all night? You missed all your chores.
Sorry.
Sorry? I'll give you sorry, you useless good-for-nothing.
He swung his belt above his head, bringing it quickly down with force. Tom flinched, but the man's fist was stopped by the little match girl's father.
Let go of me. Are you mad?
You won't lay another finger on that boy's head, so help me God.
He pushed Mr. Bramble away and put his arm around Tom.
You're coming back with me.
As they walked away, a little girl emerged from one of the streets. Small, meek and cold she was. She clutched a handful of matches, 6 matchsticks for sale, just a penny. The little match girl, as she would be known, stood on the corner, no more skin and bone. The biting cold air and falling snow filled the poor child's small heart with woe. In the mighty city of London, where there is plenty of gold, there comfort Help towards the poor still remains cold. I wish there will come a time when fairness will come, and all the suffering will finally be done.
You've been listening to an Alfie James production, The Little Match Girl, adapted from a short story by Hans Christian-Andersen by Alfie James, supported by the Arts Council England and the Redbridge Arts Fund.